just a little bit of history about advanced roofing. I worked on the roof in Long Island for high school and college, and my boss had me open a branch in Atlanta, Georgia in 1979. And then I moved down here to Florida in 1982 and started my own company with a $15,000 loan from my dad. At my old company, we were very progressive. Back in the 70s, we brought in one of the first single ply roofs in 1974, Koppers KMM. And I've carried that throughout my career. And solar has been a big part of that since the about 17 years ago when we got into the solar business. And you're going to learn a lot about that today. Kevin's one of my twin boys with Mike, and then Clint is going to be speaking today on the solar. We brought the first thin film to Dade County. We got it approved. And since then, we've installed a lot of solar. So I'm glad you're joining us today. One of the innovatives is a product called Power Panel. I'm the angel investor in that. It's up and coming. It makes hot water and electricity with the same panel. So you get a better return on investment if you use a lot of hot water in your building and you're heating with either electric or propane. Natural gas is a little bit more difficult. So the products we carry in Power Panel are designed for any particular building. So we engineer the amount of panels to how much hot water you need. The hot water is the primary. We make 4 times the amount of hot water with that same panel. And then we have portable ones. The one below that is a Gen 2.0. We donated one of them to Puerto Rico after the hurricane. And there was 3 homes in the mountains that didn't have electric or hot water for over 3 months. And we were able to provide that to them. And then we make all different types of deployable models. So enjoy your webinar today. And next up is Clint Sockman, who will definitely educate you on what's going on today. Take it away, Clint.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it. We have a great lineup today and a lot of ground to cover. So we've brought in some of the leading manufacturing partners in the EV charging business and in the solar racking business to kind of add a new perspective from the manufacturing and product side to our presentation. And like Rob said, we look forward to kind of sharing our knowledge on what's going on in the industry today, some best practices about integrating solar into your facilities, and showing you options about what's happening. So to get started, just a little bit about Advanced. We're not just a construction company. We also kind of live by our motto, which is, we're sustainable business practices. We believe in doing the right thing by the environment. Our solar division to date has installed over 300 megawatts. To kind of give everybody a flavor of what that means, you're talking over 100,000 homes that you could power with electricity. NABCEP and LEED certified, so we do everything that we can to stay out in front of the trends in renewable energy certifications, green building certifications. And here at our office, we kind of practice what we preach. We have daylighting solar tubes in offices to minimize lighting demand. We run renewable energy, EV cars and biodiesel fuel for our fleet. We try to recycle membranes and insulations that come off of our projects anytime that we can. And we also have 4 different solar arrays installed here at our office. It's almost a showcase for our customers to come look at what we're doing. But our carport at our office actually has taken our main office facility completely off the grid. So we produce more energy in a year than we consume, which is pretty awesome. But the message is we also practice, what we preach. We believe in this. It's more than just our business. It's part of who we are. Kind of an introduction to solar, an introduction to photovoltaics and how they work. Traditionally, 2 different ways to deploy solar. One is where we're grid tied, meaning that we're interactive with the utility grid. And about 99% of what we do in Florida is grid tied applications. What does this mean? We're creating DC current up on a rooftop or on a carport. We're converting that DC current through what we call an inverter from DC to AC, and that matches what you're using in your building. Now that energy gets consumed by your building loads or your property loads. And if there should ever be excess, we actually have the ability to export that energy right back out to the grid, where you would get a credit for it through a net metering agreement. And then when you needed that energy back, either at night when you're not producing electricity, you would pull it back. Net metering is one of the great policies that we have in Florida to help facilitate solar installations and encourage solar installations. The opposite of that is an off-grid system where maybe due to getting infrastructure to this location, it's a remote location, you would have battery banks. And rather than sending that energy, if you didn't consume it to the grid, you would actually store it in batteries and then pull it off of those batteries as you need it. Now the trend is actually a hybrid approach to these types of systems where we're doing grid-tied systems that operate in parallel with the utility grid, but also have a battery function. And what is that battery function for? It can either be for pure battery backup in the event of a loss of power from the utility, or it can be in what we call demand side management. So anybody who has a commercial power bill understands that the bill comes in really three different segments: energy, demand, and then also like your taxes and the utility usage fees. But if you're able to offset demand with batteries, there can be a financial gain there. I will say it's hard to make that pencil in Florida, but we're seeing it grow and that gap close every day with the adoption of batteries and battery technology improving and costs coming down. So keep a lookout for hybrid systems right now. We're installing a large portfolio for the Seminole Tribe right now. Actually, it's very exciting. So when we talk about how we're deploying solar into the marketplace, and obviously with our roofing heritage, 37 years in the roofing business, 38 years in the roofing business, Rooftop is where we started, and it's still one of the most cost-effective ways to deploy solar. And it doesn't just have to be on sloped roofs like you see at your house, whether a tile. We can see it on flat roofs, top left, standing seam roofs, or structural metal buildings like we see in the center, and then steep slope roofs, whether it's a housing or multifamily. The message really is there's almost an endless way to deploy these systems now with the manufacturing and the involvement of mounting and racking systems that's happened in the marketplace. And we're going to really hear a lot more from Iron Ridge, one of the world's leading manufacturers of racking systems for solar, in a few slides. But we're going to lead this into a poll question. And that poll question is, does rooftop solar void your warranty? It's multiple choice, so we'll give everybody a few seconds to answer in and chime in. We'll look for the results. No, 66%. One person responded yes, and then 10 people not sure. And I really think all of these answers can be correct. And so when you look at what goes on in the integration of a rooftop, and this question, will solar void your warranty? It's really a trick question. And the reason it's a trick question is we see it cause roof failures and warranty failures all the time. Both of these jobs are actual installations that we've torn off for customers in response to a faulty installation that didn't meet warranty requirements, was a clear failure of the roof system to provide its primary function of keeping a building watertight. And it was all around poor design. Now, when done properly with manufacturer approved flashing details and using quality contractors and designs, there's no reason that this has to happen. And that kind of moves us into our next slide, which is, what does have to happen for us to keep a roof warranty in place? And what are we really looking for? And the good news is that, when we started in this business 2007, the roofing manufacturers really didn't have any idea of what they needed, right? This was kind of uncharted territory. They knew how to put penetrations into a deck. We've been doing that for years, whether it's for HVAC stands, condensate lines, lightning protection, but there was no formal process for what that meant for solar itself. Not only that, but racking systems were still evolving, and the industry hadn't come up with solutions. We fast forward to where we are today, and every major manufacturer now has a policy, a library of approved flashing details. And as long as the integration follows that outline, whether it's in new construction and it's done before that roof is installed or in conjunction with the roof, or it's done post-installation and we're coming into a system that already has had a warranty issued and maybe it's 5 or 10 years old, there's a way for us to work with that manufacturer to coordinate the details, that are manufacturer approved. And back on that last page, all of those mounting methods that were shown on the right, whether it's a flat roof anchoring system from someone like Iron Ridge, or a U-anchor from Anchoring Products, these systems are made to go into roof systems. We get them, we order them with the manufacturer specific membrane. So it could be Fibertite or Carlyle, Firestone, or it could be a modified skirt that's made with Suprema. These are written right into the warranties, no exclusions. So as we kind of move out of roof warranties, and we want to show you a case study of one of our recent installations. This was a Carlyle Roof. We actually built this in new construction, where we poured all the lightweight concrete. We brought the solution for an 80 mil PVC key Carlyle roofing system, 1.6 megawatts of solar, and all the safety attributes as well. We talked about safety coming up in our next conversation. OSHA is really out there looking at workplace safety. This warehouse in particular has daylighting skylights that are fall resistant. It has guardrails on both of the leading edges. And then we also provided the glazed skylights out in front as well that are also impact rated. But take a minute to watch this installation and just look at the scale of what can be done. And there's not a single And, we commissioned that system late in 2020, late November into early December. And it's amazing to see what's been happening. The warehouse is completely offline. The office is being offset about 80%. So when you look at this, this facility, it's two-level warehouse, 100,000 square feet per level, plus about 40,000 square feet of offices, over 90% offset with their electricity needs. So it's a major success story, no roofing issues whatsoever, permitted to Dade County wind speeds. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit as well with Iron Ridge. One of the most exciting parts of our business, I think this was touched on in last year's presentation, and it hasn't slowed down at all, is the carport conversation, the parking garage conversation. We see this, parking real estate as an underutilized real estate asset, where it's basically dead zones that aren't being used for anything other than parking. When you talk about improving the aesthetics, the functionality, the experience of a facility, cover parking in Florida and see what the results come back as. Employees absolutely love it. And there is now a use for this real estate as well. We're seeing these deployed anywhere from covering 10 parking spots all the way up to 600 parking spots, ground-mounted installations to top of parking deck installations, with water management, meaning that we essentially create a roof underneath the solar panels, and guttering and drainage systems, or just allowing it to free flow between the solar panels. They can come in a lot of different flavors, as industrial and as raw as you like to see them, or as architectural with tube steel and powder coat finishes. Right now, we're doing a really exciting project at a private racetrack that's being developed at Opa-locka's Airport, and it's highly architectural. It has split vertical columns, powder coated beams, canopy lighting systems with different colored lights and controls. So a lot of fun things that you can do with this. And that really will lead us into the next slide as well, which is architectural solar. But we're starting to blend that every day. And you'll see that in this United Therapeutics solar array, where the large canopies furthest away from the building kind of take this industrial look. But as we get to the radius canopies closer to the building, you're able to take on more of an architectural look by just changing the steel framing and the finishes. So we want to run you through a quick case study video on United Therapeutics at the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville. United Therapeutics is a biopharmaceutical company that kind of specializes in lung diseases. They've been developing cures for these diseases over time, but one of their guiding principles is they have no business saving people's lives if they're also going to kind of ruin the world environmentally while doing so. So they have this large initiative to have every facility that they build to be net zero, meaning that they produce as much energy as they consume. AGT has been fortunate enough now to have completed 3 projects for the United Therapeutics organization, from Melbourne up to Satellite Beach and now into Jacksonville at the Mayo Clinic campus for their new LB2 facility, where they're producing as much renewable energy as they're consuming over the course of a year. We really had a pretty big coordination effort to get this thing from concept into completed and final design. Really, the biggest issue at the project was not only a time constraint, but it was as much of a space constraint as time. So when we're talking about the Mayo Clinic campus, we're talking about tens of thousands of visitors a day. Parking is a premium around the campus. And so when we're taking out of service over 300 parking spaces, that becomes a big topic with management at the campus, who ultimately we're reporting to. So when you're talking about doing that, there's obvious push to get those back into service for all the people that are coming in and out of the property. Nothing that we weren't able to meet. It was just something that was always on top of mind to get people back into parking spaces, back underneath the carport. Aesthetically, it's a beautiful project. The radius component, the architectural components of the steel fabrication that we integrated into the project really bring an aesthetic level to the power production point, which is, taking a facility to net zero is a rarity at this scale, but to do it while integrating architectural features into the project, so you not only have a beautiful project, you have a functional project, you have a project that's designed to last for 25, 30 years and deliver energy over that period of time, we really feel like it's a next level project. And so, what you're able to see there is the design flexibility that can go on. And, one point, AGT manufacturers and designs all of these systems kind of custom, right? There is no stock. We don't buy this component pre-manufactured. So we take a look at the building's needs, the parking lot needs, and then we design and engineer these systems to exactly what the project goals are. Moving into architectural solar, and this is a fun part of the business to be in, whether these are solar trees, architectural canopies that are being installed. We've seen our friends at Lumos have their solarscape structures at the Super Bowl for the last couple of Super Bowls. So, you walk in through the red carpet and you're bringing solar kind of to the forefront of large events like this. And the message is solar doesn't have to be buried on your roof. If you're looking to have a message that's beyond just a financial return, we have architectural options where we can design awnings or solar trees, or bring our carports to an architectural level that might not otherwise be achieved. So there's a lot of solutions out there that are driven, and that they're not just what they used to be, right? They can actually be beautiful as well. And then we have our ground-mounted solar, kind of traditionally used in the utility scale sector, but we're seeing it more and more in the C&I world. The projects on the left were done at a wastewater treatment, not wastewater treatment, reverse osmosis water treatment facility in Tarpon Springs. Which this is a crazy project. When you look at it on the surface, not much there, but directly in between, within about a foot of where our pilings had to go, There's a 2-foot water line that sends like 10 million gallons a day of RO water to the city of Tarpon Springs. So a lot of planning and coordination that goes on. But if you have underutilized or unutilized ground space kind of on the periphery of a property, you can always look at ground mounted solar as well. It can be very efficient from a costing perspective. It can be flexible. The project on the right is one of our ballasted projects. This is actually a project that was installed about 10 years ago, but we've since done several ballasted projects on landfills. So a lot of fun stuff happening out there that can be done on ground mount, but this is just another way for us to utilize real estate that might otherwise be, abandoned or not being utilized for any other purpose. With that, we're going to turn it over to Iron Ridge. Susan Stark is speaking today. Susan's been in the training business for Iron Ridge since 2014. She's very highly certified to speak on these events. She works with the NRCA and NABCEP technical sales certified. So we're really looking forward to having Susan talk about Iron Ridge and the products that they bring to the industry. They are a worldwide leader in mounting and racking solutions, both residential and commercial. And we're happy to have them on board today. So Susan, take it away.
Thanks, Clint, for the intro. And thanks for having me on to review solar codes in Florida and commercial PV mounting and racking solutions specifically for this state. Just a little bit about Iron Ridge. Iron Ridge is a solar racking and mounting manufacturer that sells two of the most respected brands in the industry. Iron Ridge was founded in 2008 to make strong, reliable racking systems for solar panels, and Quick Mount was founded in 2006 to make watertight solar mounting solutions for all roof types. We combined under one roof in 2020, and our mission is to both make solar stronger and respect the roof. We're very proud to partner with AGT to provide strong watertight solutions for their applications. So the Florida market is growing quickly, which is really no surprise given that there's about 250 days of sun each year in Florida. And while Florida is very late to the solar party, which is due to multiple factors, and Clint can explain those, we're all glad that you're actually finally able to take advantage of these sunny days and turn them into your own power. But Florida also is in the path of some of the most powerful storms on the planet, where wind speeds can exceed 180 miles an hour. And in the south part of the state, like Miami-Dade and Broward counties, they've developed stricter building code standards and product approval systems over time in order to meet these high velocity hurricane zone requirements. Which is why Iron Ridge worked closely with Florida Building Commission to test and validate our racking systems and our mounts to achieve statewide Florida product approval certification. And last year, we announced that we were the first high velocity hurricane zone approved solar PV system in accordance with the Florida Building Code. This rigorous evaluation process for Florida product approval includes ongoing auditing of quality assurance programs, and we're an ISO certified company so that we have no issue doing that, plus third-party testing by underwriters laboratories, known as UL, for resistance to high wind forces, such as the TAS 202 and wind-driven drain test, which is the TAS 100. So the TAS 202 test requires building components to be worst case tested to 1.5 times the pressure design without failing or deforming. And the TAS 100 wind-driven rain test proves that a means for establishing resistance to extreme wind-driven rain. And we know that the bottom line is rain travels uphill in Florida, and we have to be ready for that. So the bottom line is new design criteria, which was established in the 2020 building code in Florida, is actually making solar designs safer and stronger. For example, in the past, a 50-year mean recurrence interval, which used to be the standard for designing systems, meant that during a single year, the probability of a catastrophic wind event occurring was about 2%. Now check out the new MRI figures in the new code, going from 50 to 700, and that's a great improvement. So move on to racking systems, just a very high level overview of the types of systems that Clint was talking about earlier on in the presentation. First of all, there's flush mounted, meaning that the racking system and panels are mounted to a pitched roof surface directly. A tilt mount system has a low edge and a high edge to capture more sun on a low pitched roof and has to be designed differently than a flush mount system because of the wind pressures that get underneath it. And then finally, ground mounted systems that incorporate a structure to hold a tilted system. And ground mounted systems can be highly varied. So moving to flush mount systems, our company was proud to provide the racking for this recent AJT project in Central Florida, which you saw on our previous slide from Clint. It's the largest of its type, the largest net metered project in the state so far, utilized over 6,000 panels. It was attached flush to a metal standing seam roof. Moving on to tilt mount systems. In the field, we use what we call a flat roof attachment, the kind of attachment that Clint showed you that is attached with a membrane directly to the roof surface and certified by a roofer. But the more that they are tilted up, these systems, the more shade that they throw on other rows behind them, which results in more space.
I'm just listening. We can talk. I don't have anything else to do.
Oh, we've got a.
Hey, Rob, I think you came off mute. If you could go on mute for us, that'd be great. Sorry, Susan. Thank you.
That's okay. Okay, so back to tilt mount systems. So AGT will make very careful calculations to make sure that the design team fits the best angle for your project and the best row spacing so that you can fill the roof the most appropriately with a well-designed system. Attachment for tilted systems vary based on the roof type and the pitch. The three most common attachments are standoffs, which we make up to 18 inches high, attachments with flat adhered membranes, and metal roof attachments. Iron Ridge has attachments for all roof types as part of their fully engineered system. Another type of tilted system held down by weight is called ballasted, or might be a hybrid ballasted system that might incorporate some anchors to be partially attached. This system is fast and easy to deploy and can navigate complex roof layouts, also handling the most extreme environmental conditions. The Iron Ridge ballast chassis is made of Ultramid, a BAS composite used in automotive drivetrain components, and the ballast blocks are kept off the roof surface and fully contained in this fully fenced chassis. Due to the load sharing design of our system, it can actually be lighter than many of the other ballasted systems on the market. And we recently designed a system that met all the criteria without any attachments in Miami-Dade. And in order to retain the roofing manufacturer's warranty, we make sure that these mounts are completely certified and put in by a qualified roofer like AGT. Now, ground mounts and carports are all part of the same type of system, which is a purpose-built structure designed to hold the panels. These can have an additional purpose, such as the carports and the shade structures that you saw Clint feature before. And these are also tilted systems, and many factors are considered prior to choosing the best tilt angle and the materials for the job, and even the anchoring the project, as you saw, with ballast sometimes being the best solution. So in conclusion, all Iron Ridge projects receive rigorous testing protocols and are certified and listed by an independent UL testing lab. Our Florida product approval and HVAC application requires that our system assures you that our system will be strong and safe, not if, but when weather comes to the Sunshine State. And we cover all Iron Ridge products with a 25-year warranty. This warranty is in alignment with roofing system warranties, and that's why we're here today, to engage building owners in a conversation about solar PV. It's one of the best investments that you can make.
Great.
Back to you, Clint.
Thank you, Susan. That was awesome. And we really appreciate the products that Iron Ridge is putting out and the quality that comes with it, and excited about that Florida high velocity hurricane zone approval. We get a lot of questions about Dade County NOAs, and FBC, Florida Building Code approvals with high velocity hurricane zone designation are an equivalent to a Miami-Dade County NOA. And that's going to have a very big place in the permitting of certain types of railed systems with attachments, whether it's in the residential market or some of the other steep slope applications. So time for one more poll. What type of solar system has the best ROI? Rooftop solar with a flush mount like Susan outlined, laid out, rooftop solar with tilt mount, carport solar, or ground mounted solar. Give you guys a few minutes and we'll look at the results. Rooftop solar with tilt mount, 1 with flush mount, 4 with ground mount. I will say that this is another bit of a trick question because a lot of this can depend on scale, but flush mounted solar on large scale is about the most cost efficient method out there in the commercial and industrial space. Now, when we step up to utility scale systems, which this presentation is primarily focused on commercial and industrial, that's our specialty, ground mount would take over. But flush mount solar, the Illumigard, the Barrett manufacturing plant, that 2.35 megawatt system in Brooksville was one of the most cost efficient systems that AGT has ever installed. And that's primarily due to the racking and mounting solution provided by Iron Ridge and Quick Mount and S5 and intelligent design that AGT put out. So that kind of brings us into what qualifies for solar. What is a good candidate? The things that we're looking for owner and operators. We want that client in Florida to have the ability to consume the power that they produce on site. Right now, there's a note here. It says there's no current equitable return on overproduction. Well, what does that mean? If we end up with more energy on the grid at the end of the year than we consumed, we don't get that back from the utility at an equal rate to what we would normally pay for it. So if you pay 10 cents, you might get a 3-cent credit for anything left over at the end of the year. Now, it's important to know that we're able to bounce energy back and forth day to day throughout the entire year at no penalty, 1 for 1. But there is a true up at the end of the year with the net metering agreement. We also can't sell power through third-party PPAs. So if we have some attendees today, when it looks like we have quite a few attendees, a very good turnout. But if you do have some out-of-state folks that are used to PPAs where you're selling power or buying power from a third party, those types of agreements are not legal in the state, and we'll talk about that in a bit. The second thing we're looking for is someone who has the appetite for tax credits. We said tax equity here. That's a bit of a typo. Have the appetite for tax credits. So one of the biggest financial components of the investment is the 26% investment tax credit. For every $1 million you spend, you get $260,000 off of your tax bill. And that has been locked in the newest legislation through 2022. And then it's going to return back to its decline or its ramp down in 2023 to 22%. And then 2024, it's supposed to sunset at 10% again. These are political policies, and as we all know, politics change. So we don't know where that'll ultimately land, but as of right now, this is the current schedule. Midterm vision. Why do we say that? Solar in its best case in Florida right now carries somewhere around a 3 to 5 year ROI. Some of those carport structures can extend out to 10 to 12 years. So it takes time to recoup that investment. So if you're looking for a short-term return or a short-term project, something in 2 or 3 years, sometimes very hard to meet without looking at maybe some other energy efficiency upgrades, et cetera. Financial stability. Why financial stability? We do have leasing arrangements and financing arrangements that are available to us, but you need to have solid credit in order to have access to those. So while the majority of our business is cash purchase business, meaning that people will sign a contract and just pay for the asset, we do have the ability to avoid that large capital expense through our lease programs and our finance programs, but you need solid credit. And then last but not least, and this is specific to that roofing conversation, we try to align our roofs to the life cycle of the solar array. Susan mentioned 25 years. We see some solar panels pushing up to 30 years now in life. And so, do we want to get onto a roof that's in the last half of its life? Not without having a really frank conversation about what is that going to mean if you have to remove it, or do we need to make substantial repairs or put a coating down or a new roof down? So we have alignment or at least an understanding of what you're getting when it comes to roof life. Next slide. So when we talk about finance options, I'm going to put out every way that people are financing solar and purchasing solar assets in the marketplace right now. Some of these, like I've already mentioned, aren't available to everyone in Florida, but cash purchase is the overwhelming way that people buy solar products in our marketplace right now, where you're signing a contract for a fixed amount, you pay that, you receive all the tax credits, and you receive all the energy benefit. An operating lease is one of those lease structures that we just talked about, where you actually sign a lease for a term, typically 7 years. You pay a fixed amount every month or every quarter over the term of that lease. And we can structure the lease to where either you take the tax credits or the lessor takes the tax credits, just depending on whatever is best suited for you. One great thing about this is it avoids that large capital expense in the first year. If you structure it like a capital lease, which looks a lot like a loan, you can actually take those tax credits as well. So you actually become cash positive in the first several years. And you can use tax credits and depreciation to essentially pay your lease bill. So it's a very attractive model for folks that are looking for finance options. Power purchase agreements, third-party sales of electricity are really not legal in Florida with the current legislation. Energy services agreement. Advanced Roofing, Advanced Green Technologies holds one of the only ESA contracts with a private provider. We have it with the state of Florida through the Department of Management Services. And this is somewhere between a lease and a power purchase agreement, where we're out there leasing the solar panels for a fixed payment rate over a term. This contract that we hold with the state of Florida is 20 years, and it allows us to own and operate the solar on top of a government entity's rooftop, while they just make fixed lease payments for it over the term of the asset. So that's a great option for our government attendees that are out there right now. We just built 8 projects with Broward County using that contract. And so we have a lot of history out there with successful projects. And last but not least is PACE financing, property assessed clean energy, where we're able to use your property tax bill and any equity that you have built into your property to serve as security for what is essentially a loan through your tax assessments every year. This is widely used in the residential market, slowly being adopted into the commercial space, primarily because the interest rates on the loan are somewhat on the higher side, depending on what you're used to seeing. Next slide. Typical payback scenarios. We like to give you some rules of thumb, and these are very much rules of thumb, kind of based on your average system size. Maybe it's 100 kilowatts or 200 kilowatts. But in the flat roof scenario, we see a large share of our projects pencil between 4 and 6 years ROI. In our parking structure, garage tops, 1 megawatt over and oversized systems, which are very large systems, 6 to 8 years. 8 to 10 years, 300 kW to 1 megawatt, and then 10 to 12 years as we scale larger to 100 kW to 300 kW. These ROIs assume that you can monetize those tax credits and the depreciation that's available to you. We kind of see how this pencils out over the course of an actual project that we're bidding right now in the Orlando area, a nice large rooftop. They're breaking even in 5.3 years. On an investment that's going to produce over $170,000 a year in electrical savings in the first year. So, you can see in real world, we do provide investment grade financial modeling, and we use investment grade energy modeling tools as well. So, there's a lot of security and safety in the fact that our production numbers are real. They're able to be taken in for investment at any point in time. And, that financial model is completely controlled by what you tell us, right? How you would like to factor the cost of energy escalation or the cost of your money, right? When you invest this here in a solar asset, that might mean that you're not investing it somewhere else. And what does that mean for you? We take that into account with your discount rates on cash. Some things that a lot of contractors won't show you up front or necessarily be transparent with how they're factoring. So be very aware of that, and we'll work closely with you as we kind of develop this. So next slide. Solar incentives in 2021. We've hit on these throughout the slide, so I'm going to move quickly in the sake and for time's sake. But 26% income tax credit. We already talked about how that worked. It's not a deduction; it's a straight line credit, dollar for dollar off of your tax bill. And that can also be taken in the quarter that you're filing if you're a company that files your taxes quarterly, which can be a benefit as well. And that is set to gradually ramp down. Now, accelerated depreciation is one of the other biggest stimulus that we have out there as well on the federal level. Any solar asset that's built is 100% depreciable in its first year. So you're able to write that off at your effective tax rate entirely in year one. Now, the only caveat is to that is that you do have to discount your tax credit by 50%. So you only get to write off 87% of the asset fully in the first year. That other 13%, which is half of your tax credit, is abandoned. We talked about the Florida incentives that are available to us. We do have a property tax exemption, so your tax bill won't be going up. We have a sales tax exemption on all the equipment as well. And those are great things that save us, 7% on average in Florida. Sales tax varies a little bit county to county, but that's 6% minimum. And then our net metering that allows us to operate in parallel with the grid. These laws, keep your eyes open in the newspapers. Net metering is it comes under attack all the time in the political world. So, we need to protect that anytime we can. If you're out there voting, make sure we read everything that you're voting for in the solar law. So next slide. One more poll. How much solar can we fit on a 10,000 square foot rooftop? 50 kW, 100 kW, or 200 kW, or a megawatt? That's big. Oh, 200 kW is a good guess. Sounds about right. It's closer to 100 kW. We generally tell people in a rooftop scenario, a solar panel is going to have somewhere in the ballpark of 20 watts a square foot available to it. But by the time that we do take out our perimeters for fire setback, and we take out our setbacks around any of our maintainable equipment and walkways for fire requirements, and then you end up with somewhere closer to 10 watts a square foot usable. And that's, once again, just kind of a rule of thumb, definitely not a hard rule, but 100 kW would be the right answer there. So, kind of what are your next steps? What are you looking for? We always recommend everybody to do a high-level feasibility analysis to take a look at what you're doing. And there's really very basic information that we need to come up with that feasibility analysis. Where you're considering the installation, 12 months of your utility bills, and then some of those inputs on how to factor your depreciation. What is your effective tax rate as a corporation? How do you value your money with your discount rate and your investment, your cost of money, or how do you want to forecast your electrical escalation cost over the 25-year lifespan? Go ahead and move on to the next slide, and we can talk about that. So some things that we're looking for. Once again, I already talked about most of these, and the one thing I will say is, we try to size these to never overproduce your demand. We talked about how you don't get that same return by selling the power to the utility at the end of the year with that net metering agreement. You really want to consume everything you use. Some rough rules of thumb for those of you guys that maybe want to see how much solar you could fit. 10 watts a square foot on a typical rooftop, or 3,300 watts per parking spot for parking structures. Once again, give us a call, give a qualified solar contractor a call. they can actually do layouts for you. But these are guidelines. We get a lot of these questions every day that come into the office about how much solar they can fit. Next slide. With that, we're going to bring in Chargepoint, our EV car charging partner. And Jeff just and his company recently went public this week, so it's been a very awesome week for Chargepoint. We're super excited to see all the success that companies in the renewable EV solar space, the success that they've had in the publicly traded market. Chargepoint has absolutely disrupted the energy and transportation industries with their networked EV charging network that's the largest in the country out there in that smart charging world. And Jeff's here to tell you a little bit about what ChargePoint's doing and the products that they're offering and what's happening in the EV market. So Jeff, take it away.
Thanks, Clint. My name is Jeff Rofi. I'm the sales director in Florida for ChargePoint, and we have been partnering with AGT for over 4 years now on a variety of different projects. So I just want to talk a little bit about electric vehicles here in Florida. So in the past year, even with the pandemic, Florida has led the country in overall year-over-year growth in new EV purchases and registrations at 31%. Second to California for the past few years now, Florida continues to grow year over year, which is pretty impressive considering we do not have any sort of annual rebate or program to incentivize people to buy EVs. This is from just natural growth. As far as metro areas go, Florida is continuing to lead. South Florida, Orlando, Miami, and Jacksonville are all growing markets. Jacksonville, even in the past few years, has really started to surge in EV growth with 58% over the past year. So a little bit about ChargePoint. So as Clint mentioned, all of our stations are networked. So what that means to you is that the stations are connected to our cloud services through a modem on the stations themselves. So with that, every time a station is used, a ChargePoint driver uses their mobile app to connect to the station. So as of March 1st this year, we have over 22,000 active ChargePoint drivers in the state of Florida. So a little bit as far as where the drivers are, you can look to see from downtown Fort Lauderdale, we have over 16,400 ChargePoint drivers within 100 miles. So this is kind of a scatter of where all of our ChargePoint drivers are currently located. So as we mentioned, EV growth continues to surge here in Florida, but another thing that seems to be happening quite quickly is EV ordinances. And what this means is that city and county governments are now putting electric vehicle ordinances on the back of developers for construction and new projects. So for example, almost 2 years ago now, Miami-Dade County passed an ordinance for all parking lots, new and remodeled, that 10% of all spaces must be EV ready. And that number moves to 20% in 2023. So if you're doing any projects, new construction in unincorporated Miami-Dade County, you're going to see that in the city processing permit program. The city of Miami itself is currently exempt from that, but the city of Miami is considering adopting that ordinance as well. City of Boca has had one since 2017, Surfside, Coral Gables. We also have current ordinances in process in the city of Tampa and the city of Orlando that we expect to be passed this year. So one thing that's led to the growth here in Florida really is Tesla. Tesla outside of California, Florida is Tesla's largest market. If you notice on the road, you'll see you can't go a day without seeing multiple Teslas, the Model S, Model 3, and now the Model Y in production has really populated in Florida. I think we have over 1,000 Model Ys in Florida already. But not just Tesla anymore. So the Ford Mustang Mach-E was just released. It is currently at dealerships here in Florida and is available for order. That is Ford's first all-electric car that's designed to go 300 miles or more. General Motors, Porsche, Audi all have electric vehicles on the market today. But in the future, you're going to see even more coming from Hyundai, Daimler, Land Rover, Jaguar, and Volvo and Polestar. And the new Volkswagen vehicles also will be launched by the end of this year. So by the end of this year, there'll be over 35 electric vehicles currently on the market. And by next year, you're going to start seeing electric pickups. So the F-150 will be launched. You'll have the new Rivian electric pickup, and a couple other automakers are announcing all electric pickup trucks for this market. So a little bit about Chargepoint. So as Clint said, yes, we just went public last week. We are the world's largest and most open EV charging network. We have at this point, over 120,000 charging ports in North America, which is the largest network here in North America with about 72% of the market share. In Florida, we have over 4,500 charging ports available, locations such as Disney World, City of Miami parking garages, Universal Studios, and probably 500 or more condos scattered around the state. So we also have the largest community of EV drivers. As of today, a driver plugs into the Chargepoint network every second to use one of our stations. And since we went public, we are established and growing. Electric vehicle charging stations in the network is all we do. So we have over 200 R&D research and designers and network engineers constantly continuing to find ways to grow this market and find new ways to increase the speed of EV charging. So lastly, I just want to kind of talk a little bit about EV charging, the basics. So what we have are level 2 and level 3 EV charging stations. So level 2 is a 208 volt, 240 volt, a standard 40 amp charging station. So Chargepoint is the only manufacturer that designs an entire range of stations from a home product for a single family home garage, all the way up to a 400 kilowatt plus Express Plus product that'll be out this summer. So we have specific products just for multifamily and fleets. We have commercial products, and then we have a variety of DC fast chargers. So if you're driving to Orlando and you stop at the Fort Drum interchange, you'll see 6 of our CPE 250 paired 125 kilowatt charging stations there. And in the future, you'll see those Express Plus 400 kilowatt stations come into the market as more vehicles need that level of speed. So if you have any other questions in the future, you feel free to email me or email Clint, and we'll be happy to help you. Thank you.